Stand on the shores of Lough Derg in County Donegal in preparation for a journey across its waters. Look out to your island destination and contemplate the purpose of your visit, and you will become part of a celebrated tradition that dates back in an uninterrupted line to the earliest of Christian times. For St. Patrick's Purgatory on Station Island in Lough Derg is Ireland's most ancient place of pilgrimage. As a pilgrim, you will be following in the footsteps of countless others who came here and still come to this place apart. St. Patrick's name is inexorably linked with Lough Derg, and although there is no written record of him having been here, it is known that during his time in Ireland he sought a peaceful place for prayer and contemplation. Why he journeyed here is not clear, but some suggest that long before Christian times, Lough Derg was already considered by ancient civilizations to be a special place. Others followed in Patrick's footsteps, and ancient writings tell us that by the end of the 5th century, monks had established a religious community on the nearby Saints' Island. St. Davig, a disciple of St. Patrick, is thought to have been the first abbot of that monastery. Davig's memory is perpetuated both on the islands and in the surrounding area. Some of the earliest known records make reference to this site as being a place of pilgrimage. Medieval writers claimed that an island cave would lead the penitent through purgatory. Stories of its existence made Lough Derg famous throughout 12th century Europe. That Lough Derg and the cave are charted as principal landmarks on some of the first maps of Ireland is testament to their significance all those centuries ago, at a time when Ireland was regarded as at the very edge of the known world, and perhaps a pathway to the next. The word Derg has been interpreted in many ways. Some say it's Irish for red. The surrounding boglands certainly have an effect on the colour of the water, or, as legend would have it, red from the blood of the last great serpent slain by St. Patrick. Others, perhaps more accurately, say it derives from the Irish word for cave. Down through the centuries, despite hardship and persecution, despite the destruction on several occasions of its monastic buildings and of the aforementioned cave, pilgrimages to St. Patrick's Purgatory have continued unabated. At the heart of this island looms the copper-domed church dedicated to St. Patrick, which was given the title of Basilica by Pope Pius XI in 1931. Situated in the Diocese of Clogher, this sacred place of pilgrimage attracts over 20,000 pilgrims every year, people from all walks of life, people of all ages, and like those that made this journey before them, they come in search of a unique spiritual experience that only a place apart can offer. The pilgrimage season starts in May, but preparations for the thousands of visitors who travel to Station Island begin earlier in the year. There's maintenance and improvement work to be done, and the passenger ferries must be made shipshape. As spring approaches, work gathers apace to ensure that all is ready for the arrival of the first pilgrims. Just before their arrival, in fact on St. Patrick's Day, a group of international missionaries gather together for a special retreat, a fitting start to the pilgrimage season.
The tradition grew up of spending 24 hours in the cave.
Until the late 1960s, pilgrims were rowed out to the island in an open boat. The half-mile journey for some may well have been a nerve-wracking event, especially on choppy waters. So the introduction of covered motor ferries, manned by trained crews, has made this much less daunting. The St. David carries up to 60, while the St. Columba ferries 100 people each trip. And so the pilgrims arrive. These early visitors have come for a one-day retreat. They are held throughout May and then again in late August and September, and were introduced in 1992 in response to the growing number of people seeking to come here on pilgrimage. Although only here for one day, they are pilgrims nonetheless. Their choice of the one-day retreat is often because they can no longer endure the physical rigours of the traditional three-day pilgrimage, or perhaps are unable to find so much time away from home or work. No matter, they are all welcome. Gathering on Station Island, there are light refreshments and an opportunity to meet fellow retreatants. Throughout the day, they are immersed in prayer in the basilica, at other times walking around outside, reciting familiar prayers. The stunning stained glass windows in the basilica, designed by Harry Clarke in the 1920s, are the focus during the Way of the Cross.
Jesus is nailed to the cross.
They seem like jewels in an otherwise unadorned church, and make each step of Christ on his journey to the cross all the more vivid and memorable.
I love above all things. I repent with my whole heart of having offended.
Many people make return visits here, and they will have noticed over the years how much Station Island has changed, not in the worship, but in the improved facilities. Davig House is a purpose-built meeting centre, and the Church of St Mary has been restored and modified. A day away in this lonely place can be a time to heal difficult memories and strengthen connectedness with God. And as befits this remote island, there's also space and time for personal reflection. And in a spirit of welcoming all, Lough Derg looks forward to hosting once each year the Faith and Light Regional Pilgrimage, the first of which was in 1988. This is a very memorable day where children and young adults with special needs come to the island with their family and friends. Alongside informal gatherings and entertainment, run special services which involve all those gathered in joyful worship. The day is one of celebration and friendship, with the young people playing a central role in the liturgy. In a similar spirit, May 18, 2006 saw the first International Day of Pilgrimage for the Deaf on Lough Derg. This group came from Germany. Again, there is a lively atmosphere. This is a time to enjoy and relish this special visit. All the activities during their stay, including the Mass, are conducted predominantly in German and are signed.
Wir bringen dieses Brot vor dein Angesicht.
It's a unique event, and it marks another milestone for Lough Derg, which has long since been associated with attracting international pilgrims and with reaching out to the needs of all who seek to worship here.
Thank you.
People of all ages and walks of life. People from different cultures and social backgrounds. They gather as a group on the pier that reaches out into the dark waters of an isolated lake in a remote part of County Donegal. Each has his or her own expectations of what lies ahead. They are aware that the next 3 days will be intense and challenging. But there is hope in the air as they board the ferries, that despite the rigours that lie ahead, this will be for them a deeply rewarding religious and personal experience. Boarding the ferries means stepping outside their ordinary life and routine, leaving behind many of the trappings of the modern world, their mobile phones, radios, cameras. Each of them will have begun their commitment to the 3-day pilgrimage at midnight before this departure. That's when they started their fast. For some, this is a first-time experience, but they may be sitting alongside someone who's already done Lough Derg, to quote the commonly used expression. Either way, for all, there is a palpable sense of hope mixed with apprehension as they near Station Island. On landing, a few practical matters must be completed, not least being allocated a bed in the dormitories. Despite not being able to seek rest in it for the next 24 hours, the old hands know that making it ready is a job best tackled now. Then, in an act which typifies the abandonment of the everyday world and reinforces their commitment to tread a path closer to Christ, each pilgrim removes their footwear. They will be barefoot for the rest of their stay. And so begins a carefully laid out journey of prayer and contemplation, both through services in the Basilica and around the island. It starts with the first of the 9 stations. Each station involves a cycle of prayer and movements. Pilgrims circle the outer walls of St.Patricks Basilica, heightening the sense perhaps that they are island-bound, separated from the distractions of modern-day life. These first tentative steps on the bare ground are difficult, a feeling that is intensified as each pilgrim begins to circle the penitential beds. These beds are remnants of the ancient beehive cells used by the monastic community of Lough Derg as far back as the 6th century. They are a tangible link with this place's Celtic past. Familiar prayers, repeated mantra-like as the beds are circled, underfoot bare rock and stone, uneven, slippery when wet. In places, it's the very bedrock of the island. Walking, kneeling, reaching out to the crucifix at the centre, worn shiny by human touch, it offers a helping hand on rising. Each movement has its own significance, be it by the water's edge, or at St. Bridget's Cross, an ancient carved stone set in the rugged walls of the Basilica. Here, pilgrims use both the words and their bodies to renounce the world, the flesh, and the devil. A simple yet powerful statement embodying the essence of this pilgrimage. Doing the stations, as pilgrims have come to call it, helps remove day-to-day anxieties, creating space in the mind for deeper reflection. Their circular journey round the Basilica, round the beds, and leading to the cross at the centre, perhaps reflecting an inner journey to what is central in their lives. An air of stillness and calm pervades the island. Yes, this is a place of solitude and tranquility. Yet Lough Derg is a dynamic place. A hive of activity lies behind the quiet calm of the island. Dedicated staff manage the comings and goings of over 20,000 visitors each year. Great loads of laundry are washed and dried. Dormitories are made ready for new pilgrims. The grounds, boats and buildings are maintained, and the kitchen staff are kept at their post for pilgrims and staff alike. all without disturbing those at worship. Power for electrical equipment is fed to the island from the national grid. There's a generator as backup though. Fresh water is pumped over from onshore wells, while lake water is purified for domestic use. And surely this has to be Ireland's most distinctive bread run. The pilgrims are on a fast, yes, but once each day they are offered dry toast. Obviously quite a lot of it. And that first simple meal, shared by the pilgrims, is a precious time, for it gives them the chance to exchange stories and experiences. This bonding and sense of community will help them through their remaining time on the island, especially as they gather in the Basilica for the approaching all-night vigil, which is the very core of the penitential exercises. The sharing of bread in the dining room and the sense of community they have fostered in some way prefigures their sharing of the Eucharistic bread. This early evening Mass is a very special celebration. It brings together all the pilgrims on the island, those who have arrived today alongside those who started their pilgrimage yesterday and are nearing the end of their vigil.
The love of the Lord Jesus and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with you all.
For all who seek God with a sincere heart, that they may find the way that leads to peace. Lord, hear us.
Let us give thanks to the Lord our God. Christ has died, Christ is risen, Christ will come again. Let's offer each other a sign of peace.
Evening falls. The new pilgrims gather to begin their vigil. This is the first time they will be on their own. Pulling shut the great oak doors of the Basilica conjures up the memory of penitents being shut into the cave so long ago, or the prison chapel of more recent times. A single candle is lit. It will burn throughout the vigil. Then they will hear words of encouragement for what lies ahead.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
The Stations of the Night are performed within the Basilica. The prayers fill the darkest hours. Left alone in the night, they are part of a community of pilgrims from which they can draw strength and give support to through this long night and into the dawn of a new day. Spirits are rekindled through the celebration of the early morning Mass, a celebration almost of what has been achieved so far.
Fill our hearts with the light of your gospel, that our
The candle
thoughts may
continues to
please
burn.
and our love be sincere.
The vigil progresses and the pilgrims prepare for the sacrament of reconciliation.
May we receive with joyful hearts the forgiveness and peace that you offer to us. For you are Lord forever and ever. Amen.
After a night of uninterrupted prayer and reflection, this can be an emotional time. For each pilgrim, this is a unique experience. Hurts and painful emotions may have surfaced. Now, amidst the crowds and in an atmosphere of compassion and healing, they celebrate reconciliation and through that encounter God's love. A deeply personal experience. Another station on the penitential beds, and the renewal of baptismal promises in which the pilgrims recommit themselves to following the Lord.
And so I ask you, do you reject sin so as to live in the freedom of God's children? I do.
Throughout the day, people continue in prayer. Some may search out a small space on their own or find company with others. This too is a time when some may seek personal advice from those in ministry on the island. For those who request it, there is now a listening ear, as it were, to comfort those who are perhaps trying to address some of the raw and difficult emotions which may have surfaced during the night. On a more practical level, perhaps for injury to these souls, there is a first aid centre. The light begins to fade as all gather for night prayers and benediction. Their vigil ended. As they leave the basilica, there is an atmosphere of quiet satisfaction. All make a beeline for the dormitories. There's a tangible anticipation of sleep.
Bring them and all the departed into the light of your presence.
During Eucharist in the early morning of the third day, it's hard to ignore the sense of joy that prevails amongst those that are nearing the end. Joy in having taken this great spiritual journey. Departure is imminent and farewells are made. Each person came for their own individual reasons. Each has their own answers to seek. But despite those differences, pilgrims have repeatedly said that on Lough Derg they have found a true and lasting connection with their spirituality. They have found peace within themselves. Others talk of a renewed energy and a strengthening of their relationship with God, and the courage to carry that faith into their everyday world. Rather than the last 3 days being an endurance, has it not been a gifted opportunity? They're young, lively and enjoying a break away from the classroom. Passengers that you might not expect to see on the ferry that carries pilgrims to Station Island on Lough Derg. This group is about to take part in one of the many youth retreats which have proved increasingly popular with schools and youth groups. They were started in 2001 and are part of a resurgence in the number of young people coming here, either as individuals on the traditional pilgrimages or alongside their friends and classmates. Their idea of St. Patrick's Purgatory at this stage will probably have been based on what their parents and grandparents will have told them.
What I heard of Lough Derg was that it was going to be like a really strict pilgrimage. I was thinking like you're going to be fasted and everything, and that we're going to walk on barefooted. That's the main thing I heard.
Well, when you think of Lough Derg, you think it's somewhere that you come on pilgrimage for 3 days, and you've heard about the stories of barefoot and just black tea and dry bread, but it's totally different. You get fed and it's just great fun, and you get to meet people from your year that you don't really know before, and you just bond with everyone, so it's great.
I knew my mom had come previous times, and I saw the kind of pilgrimage side of it, and I was expecting more so that than the kind of really relaxing time that we actually had here. And I think that's a big surprise for me, because when we got here they were so welcoming and so friendly, and it was just like being at home really, in a way, or just going on holiday or something like that.
For all that come to Lough Derg, it's about stepping away from the pressures of a hectic modern world to take time to reflect on their faith and inner self. And that's the same for these young people. It's the way it's done that's different. The emphasis is on a range of tailor-made activities and exercises, which change depending on the needs of each particular group. The common theme, though, is the same for all who travel here. It's about exploring their faith and the part it plays in their lives, and in particular about seeking for their authentic self, the real person that lies inside them.
There was a lot of different exercises, like they ranged from like the holier to more kind of group bonding, I thought. You know, there was some like the making of the masks. I loved that. I just thought it was so much fun, and just really letting yourself go and expressing what you thought and letting yourself come through, and you were able to let out that side that sometimes you hide back when you're at home.
They were trying to get you to realise like your real self, like not the image you put out. And I think that's the thing where they got us to paint the mask, that it was kind of like a fake image we give to other people, but to realise what's really inside us that counts.
And then there was other types of experiences like the meditation, which were so relaxing, and you know, you could really let your guard down and just lie there and feel safe. Like that's what they really meant by Lough Derg, and I think there is a safety here.
Their presence brings great vitality and energy to the island, which they have to themselves, yet without destroying the peace and solitude that this holy place is so renowned for.
For myself, it's just actually being here and just like getting a sense of the place, because it's so different to anywhere else. It's so remote and taken away from the outside world. You feel like it's your own little place on earth, and it's kind of completely different. It's like something out of a book.
During their time here, they're asked to think about their true selves so that they can move forward from this island with new hope. A simple candlelight symbolising that hope. The retreat aims to help young people understand the central role that God plays in their daily lives, to recognise the depth of His love, but also to learn to be true to your faith and to yourself. Lough Derg has a past that is much cherished. Perhaps in our modern day world, it has an even greater relevance. For the Lough Derg experience continues to serve the religious and spiritual needs of all who journey here to this place apart.